Hello everyone, I'm Anas Al Ubaidi, and the topic uh, or the title of this session or this lecture is about the four phases of clinical trials, the focus and the application. This session or lecture is part of the chapter that is about the foundations of clinical research. And of course, this session or lecture is part of the Advanced Clinical Research Assistant Certification course program by CCRPS. Introduction. Clinical trials are the backbone of medical research, providing the evidence required to bring new treatments, drugs, and medical devices to the public safely and effectively. Each clinical trial progresses through a series of phases, each designed to evaluate a specific aspect of the treatment's safety, efficacy, and overall usability. These phases collectively ensure that a treatment is rigorously tested before reaching widespread use, protecting the health and well-being of patients. The primary objective of clinical trials is to bridge the gap between laboratory findings and real-world application. Whether it's a cutting-edge cancer drug or an innovative therapy for chronic diseases, every new intervention undergoes a meticulous multi-phase process to demonstrate its value. Phase 1 trials focus on the safety and dosage. Phase 2 prioritizes efficacy and side effects. Phase 3 confirms effectiveness through large-scale studies, so Phase 3 is about comparison. And Phase 4 ensures long-term safety and benefits post-approval, so post-marketing surveillance is about Phase 4. Each phase plays a critical role with the clinical research assistants, often at the forefront of trial management. They are responsible for data collection, patient monitoring, protocol adherence, and regulatory compliance. Key points. Phase 1 clinical trials, the safety. So safety and dosage, focus and purpose. Phase 1 trials serve as the first stage of human testing. Their primary aim is to determine the treatment's safety and identify the appropriate dosage. At this stage, researchers evaluate how a drug is absorbed, distributed, metabolized, and excreted by the body. So, pharmacokinetics, which is ADME, short for A, which is A for absorbed, D for absorption, A, D distribution, M metabolism, and E excretion. So ADME, which is the pharmacokinetics. Key activities: recruit and administer treatment to 20 to 80 health volunteers or terminally ill patients, depending on the nature of the treatment. Gradually increase dosage levels to establish the maximum tolerated dose, MTD, without severe side effects. Monitor participants closely for adverse effects, collecting precise pharmacokinetic and pharmacodynamic data. Example: a new cancer drug undergoes phase 1 trials to identify its maximum safe dose. Researchers observe its interaction with the human biology and determine logistical considerations for later trial phases. The outcome here: phase 1 trials establish a safe dosage range and identify early indicators of side effects, forming the foundation for phase 2. And here is a diagram: phase 1 activities description, so safety assessment, monitor participants for immediate and long-term adverse effects. Dose response testing, assess how different dosages impact patient safety and tolerability. The significance here: phase 1 ensures that only safe and viable treatments progress to efficacy testing. And here is a diagram on phase 1 trials drop-off. Phase 2 clinical trials, efficacy and side effects. Focus and purpose. The phase 2 trials focus on evaluating the treatment's effectiveness in patients with a targeted condition while continuing to monitor safety. These trials refine the dose and confirm findings from phase 1 under more controlled conditions. Key activities: enroll several hundred participants diagnosed with a disease or condition of interest. Randomly assign participants to treatment and placebo groups. Collect comparative data to measure how well the new treatment performs. Example, a new antiviral drug is tested in phase 2 to determine its ability to reduce viral load compared to a placebo in patients diagnosed with infection. Outcome here, this phase provides preliminary evidence of effectiveness while ruling out treatments with limited therapeutic potential or unacceptable side effect profiles. And here is a table on phase 2 activities and description. Efficacy testing, evaluate if the treatment produces the intended beneficial effects. Side effect monitoring, compare the safety profile of the drug against placebos or standard care. Significance here, phase 2 narrows the focus of treatments likely to succeed in larger scale testing. And here is a diagram on evaluating treatment effectiveness in phase 2 trials. Phase 3 clinical trials. Confirmation and monitoring, focus and purpose. So we have a comparison. The main role of phase 3 is comparison. Phase 3 trials aim to confirm the treatment's effectiveness, monitor adverse reactions, and compare it to existing, comparison to existing standard therapies or placebos. By involving a much larger participant group, this phase generates statistically significant data critical for regulatory approval. Key activities recruit thousands of participants across multiple study centers to represent real-world diversity, conduct randomized blinded studies. Participants or researchers are unaware of group assignments, so double-blinded, to eliminate bias. Collect comprehensive data on the treatment's efficacy, safety, and impact of quality of life. So example, a new diabetes medication undergoes phase 3 trials to assess its ability to control blood sugar levels compared to established treatments. Outcome, successful phase 3 trials provide the exhaustive data required for regulatory submission to bodies like the FDA in USA or EMA in European Union. And here is a table on phase 3 activities, description for each activity. Large-scale testing enroll thousands of participants for reliable generalizable data. Comparison studies evaluate the treatment against current standards or a placebo. The significance here, phase 3 is the gateway to regulatory approval and sets the foundation for real-world dosage. And here is a diagram on phase 3 trial success. Then phase 4 clinical trials, long-term data collection, the focus and purpose, so post-marketing surveillance phase. Phase 4 trials, also known as post-marketing studies, are conducted after treatment has received regulatory approval. Their main goal is to monitor the treatment's performance in a broader population over an extended period. Key activities evaluate long-term safety and effectiveness in diverse populations, identify rare or delayed side effects that may not have been evident in prior phases, assess how the treatment performs in routine healthcare settings rather than controlled trial environments. Example, a newly approved cholesterol-lowering drug is subjected to phase 4 trials to monitor its cardiovascular benefits and potential rare side effects in populations with pre-existing heart disease. Outcome here, these trials ensure sustained safety and efficacy while providing feedback for adjusting treatment protocols. Here's a table on phase 4 activities for each activity description. Post-marketing surveillance, monitor for rare side effects during widespread use, real-world effectiveness testing, evaluate treatment utility in daily medical practice. Significance here, phase 4 maintains ongoing vigilance to uphold public trust and adapt medical applications based on real-world data. And here is a diagram on phase 4 trial process. Practical applications of clinical trials, examples of application across phases. Phase 1, new cancer therapies determine the initial safe dose for humans. Phase 4, antiviral medications show initial evidence of efficacy against emerging viruses. Phase 3 diabetes treatments reveal whether they outperform existing therapies on a large scale. Phase 4, cardiac drugs approved for public use continue to demonstrate long-term safety in millions of patients globally. And here is a table for the 4 phases here, and for each one application, example, outcome. Understanding the four phases of clinical trials empowers clinical research assistants, CRAs, or CTAs, clinical trial assistants, to contribute meaningfully to the development and validation of new treatments. Their work not only ensures participant safety but also advances the field of medicine by fostering rigorous testing and ethical responsibility at every step. And here is a diagram on clinical trial phases and applications. Phase 1 determines safe dose, Phase 2 efficacy evidence, Phase 3 compare therapies, and Phase 4 long-term safety. Summary tables. Here we have a table on overview of the four phases of clinical trials, table on focus and key activities of each trial phase, table on examples of clinical applications in each phase, table on key outcomes of each clinical trial phase, table on benefits of following the four phases, and then application table, scenario for each scenario, key principle applied, key actions, timeline, what to watch out for. Then we have the MCQs, multiple choice questions, in order to revise what we have covered through this lecture. Question 1. What is the primary focus of Phase 1 clinical trials? Dose and safety. So we'll be determining safe dosage levels and assessing safety, as Phase 1 trials primarily focus on evaluating a treatment's safety and determining the maximum tolerated dose, MTD. This phase recruits 20 to 80 participants and tests how the drug is absorbed, metabolized, and tolerated, distributed, metabolized, and then excreted by the body. Question 2. Which of the following activities is characteristic of Phase 2 clinical trials? Phase 2 will be the efficacy. So B, evaluating the treatment's effectiveness and refining its dosage. Phase 2 clinical trials prioritize efficacy testing while continuing to evaluate safety, typically involving several hundred participants with the condition of interest. It provides early comparative data on how well the treatment works. Question 3. What is the main purpose of randomization and blinding, double blinding in Phase 3 trials? In order to minimize or avoid bias. So C, to eliminate bias and ensure reliability of comparative results, as randomization and blinding are critical tools in Phase 3 trials as they minimize bias, making the results scientifically valid and reliable. Question 4. Which outcome is expected from Phase 4 clinical trials? As Phase 4 clinical trials is post-marketing surveillance. So D would be identify rare or delayed side effects in real-world scenarios, as Phase 4 trials conducted post-approval are designed to monitor a treatment's long-term safety, effectiveness, and performance in typical healthcare settings. Question 5. Why is it essential to follow a phased approach in clinical trials? Well, B would be the answer, to ensure a stepwise progression prioritizing safety and efficacy, as the phased approach in clinical trials ensures that new treatments are tested progressively for safety, efficacy, and long-term benefits. This method protects participants by identifying issues early on, like in Phase 1, refining the treatments used like in Phase 2 and 3, and maintaining ongoing safety monitoring, Phase 4. Approving treatments without multiple levels of testing would compromise patient safety. And here we come to the end of this lecture. Thank you very much and goodbye.